When a car must make a sudden stop, it often leaves skid marks on the pavement. Is there any way to tell from the skid marks how fast a car was going before it put on the brakes? The equation S equals the square root of 30 FD can be used to estimate the speed, which is S in miles per hour, a car must have been traveling in order to make a skid mark that measures D feet in length. The F in the equation is a coefficient of friction that depends on the road conditions. For a typical street, we can use F equals 0.6 or 6/10. Or here, S equals the root of 30 times 0.6 times D, which can be rewritten as what? S equals what? And why do you say that? 30 times 0.6? 18, yes? Okay. So, if we have that equation, what can we do with it? Can we fill in our table? Yes? Let's please fill in our table rounding to the nearest integer. Okay? Anybody got 20 yet? 18 times 20, and then the square root of that number. 19? So let me ask you a procedural question real quick, please. How are you doing this? Are you doing 18 times 9 times 20 and then the square root of that number? Or did you go to a graph and put this in y equals and look at the table? Which way are you doing it? Okay, that's fine. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, either way is fine. 40? Anybody have 40 yet? 27? Anybody have 60? 33? 80? 100? 42? 150? 52? And 200? 60. So let's plot these points right here on the table. Now, do you guys all understand that these are like approximately equal, right? Do we need to put approximately every time, or can you just remember we rounded? Is that good? Okay. So let's go ahead and plot these on the table right here. X is 20, Y is 19-ish. X is 40, Y is 27. X is 60, Y is 33. X is 80, Y is 38. X is 142. 150 is going to be like right here. That's 52. 200 would be 60. Does yours look like mine? So there's one more point that we could put on here that's not our table. That's not on our table. Can we put in 0, 0? Because if the skid distance is 0, first of all, logically, you were going 0 if there's no skid, right? But even if we do it like with the formula, 0 times 18 is 0, the square root of 0 is 0, okay? Well, can I connect these? One of those is right. Why can I connect them? You can have partial feet and partial distance, and we also have an equation, right, that we used? Pardon? Yeah. I have one here too on my thumb. They asked me if this was a penguin. Turn it around. This one has a little baby. This one's just a penguin head. Yeah, exactly. Dun dun dun. Okay, so go ahead and now let me ask you guys, do you need this? Do you need this box right here to tell you what window to use if I want you to put it in your calculator? Why not? Can't you just use the table that or the graph that they gave you and make your graph have the same scale and same axes and same min and max as the one they gave you? Good. A dog ran out in front of your car. You slammed on your brakes and left a 15-foot skid mark. About how fast were you going? What do you think? What do I do with 15, guys? What's the distance? What's the distance in this problem? 15? So what's the speed? So about 16, what? 16 what? Miles per hour, right? Okay. A second car almost ran into the back of you, but was able to stop after making a 108-foot skid mark. If the speed limit was 45 miles per hour, was the driver speeding? Okay. What's the distance in this problem? 108. 108 what? Feet. So what was the speed? 44. So were they speeding? No. A third car was going 48 miles per hour when it slammed on its brakes. How many feet will it take this car to skid to a stop? What's the distance? We don't know. What's the speed? 48. So what we have, how would you figure it out? Can we put this into this equation that right here? So the speed would be 48 equals what? The square root of 18d? So how do I do that mathematically? What's our goal for the day? Solve square root equations. What is this? A square root equation. Oh my goodness, we're doing what we said we'd do. So how am I going to figure out? I heard somebody say it a minute ago. You want to square both sides? Okay, I get what'll happen here. What is 48 squared? 2,304? What's that? 18D? How do you know that? So if you square something that's being squared, what happens to the radical? Yeah. Okay. So it's just 18D. Now what do I do to solve for D? Divide by 18. Good. 128 what? Feet. Any questions? Okay, look up here, please. There's an example here for you already. There's some instructions right over here. Let's look at example 2. Okay? Now, I'm not going through this example with you. Do you see why I'm not going through this example with you? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's the one we just did. So I already kind of did walk through it with you, right? Okay? So what are we going to do on example 2? How are we going to solve this? We can't get the x out of the radical until we're ready to get rid of the radical. That's a good question, though. What would you do? What would you do if the problem looked like 5 plus x equals 9? Blue doesn't work very well. 5 plus x equals 9. What would you do? You'd subtract 5 from both sides, wouldn't you? How is that really different than what we have right here? We can't do anything to this radical until we get everything away from it. Okay? So before we can go on to anything else, we've got to subtract 5 first. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? So we get the square root of x minus 3 equals 4. So if you'll notice, the first step for you to do every time is to isolate the radical. Get the radical by itself. Okay? Now square both sides. So if I square both sides, the whole side, right? Not just individual parts, but the whole side. What do I end up with on the left-hand side? Try again. X minus 3. Whatever was in the radical, that's what I end up with outside of the radical when I square both sides. Fair enough? Okay. Equals what? 16. Add 3. X equals 19. Is it right? Plug it in. Check and solve, right? So 5 plus the square root of 19 minus 3 equals 9. Well, 19 minus 3 is... So I have 5 plus the square root of 16 equals 9. We know that the square root of 16 is... So 5 plus 4 equals 9. Math. Okay? Any questions? All right. What about this one? Isolate the radical. Add 3 to both sides. X plus 5 equals, root of x plus 5 equals x plus 3. Is the radical isolated? Square both sides. Please don't make me cry. What do we end up with on the left-hand side? X plus 5. What do we end up with on the right-hand side? Hey, you remember how last unit we squared binomials and we practiced it and I was like, we're going to need to use this here pretty soon? Hey, guess what? It's pretty soon. What is x plus 3 squared the same as? X plus 3 times x plus 3. And we have to either use the distributive property or FOIL, whatever you know it as. Okay? What the math that's happening is the distributive property. X squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. X squared plus 6x plus 9. Now what? It is quadratic, right? Do you see that? If it's quadratic, what do we want to get it equal to in order to solve it? 0. So let's subtract x from both sides. And let's subtract 5 from both sides. So 0 equals x squared minus 5x plus 4. Plus 5x. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I was... yeah, okay. Now what? You want to go there? You want to go to quadratic formula? What two numbers multiplied to be 4 and add to be 5? Can I go to factoring instead? X plus 4, x plus 1. Once I have my factors, how do I solve for x? I said each one of them equal to 0, right? X plus 4 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. X equals negative 4. X equals negative 1. Uh-huh. Are these right? So do I really need to check them? Yes. Okay, the square root of negative 4 plus 5 minus 3 equals negative 4. So negative 4 plus 5 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1 minus 3 equals negative 4. In what universe does 1 minus 3 equals negative 4? And it has to be a universe I can go to. Did we do something wrong? Check the other one? Okay, so we know negative 4 does not work. Right? Now are we sure we didn't miss anything up here? 100% sure. Okay, so what about negative 1? So the square root of negative 1 plus 5 minus 3 equals negative 1. So negative 1 plus 5 is 4 minus 3 equals say it again? Oh, excuse me, square root of 4. Thank you. 2 minus 3 equals negative 1. So while we got 2 solutions, only one of them works. Is that allowed? Yes. Think about it for me for just a second. A parabola has 2 places it can cross the x-axis, right? Isn't that what a solution is to a parabola? It's where it crosses the x-axis. What about a square root function? Will it ever cross the x-axis in more than one place? Something to think about, yes? A. So what do I do on A? What do I do first? How? No, you can't. Guys, listen to me. Don't make this harder than it is. If this was 2x plus 3 equals 15, what would I do first? I would subtract 3 and then divide by 2, right? We're doing the same kind of thought process here. I have to isolate the radical as if it was its own little thing. Okay? So I have to subtract 3 first and get 2 times the root of x plus 7 equals 12. And then I divide everything by 2. Don't start multiplying stuff through, because then you're creating extra work for yourself. And if you try to multiply this 2 into this radical, you're going to get it wrong. Okay? 2 divided by 2 is what? It's 1. So I get root x plus 7 equals 6. My radical is isolated. Now, square both sides. X plus 7 equals 36. X equals 29. Is it the right answer? You need to check. So 29 plus 7. Does anyone know what 29 plus 7 is? Oh, 36. Okay, what's the square root of 36? So 12 plus 3 is 15. Now, show me on my paper right here where I just checked my work. Are you required to write something down? Is it a good idea to do something like 2 times 6 plus 3 equals 15? Okay, did it. Isn't this my proof that I checked my work? And I'm asking for proof. For now. Just like always, if we can start off and we can do it well, am I going to make you write a bunch of stuff down? No. Prove to me that you're writing it down. Prove to me that you're checking it by writing it down. Did I ask you to write down the whole thing like we did up here for these? No. Show me that you did enough to know that this is correct. What about B? Okay, the radical's already isolated, so square both sides. X squared equals x plus 20. Subtract 20, why? I have to turn it into a quadratic function, or it already is one? Oh, okay, it already is one, so I want it to get equal to 0. Now, what you need to know about me is I really like to have positive x squareds. So I would rather go ahead and move these two, so I get a positive x squared, than mess with negative x squareds. Because then I'd have to divide everything by 0, or then by negative 1, or then I'd have to factor weird ways. I don't like that. Quadratic formula? No. What two numbers multiply to be negative 20 and add to be negative 1? Oh, negative 5 and 4. So x minus 5 and x plus 4. That's a minus. So if my factor is x minus 5, what's my solution? X equals 5. And if my factor is x plus 4, what's my solution? X equals 4. Are they both right? Thank you. Are they both right? 5 plus 20 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So that one's good. That one works. Negative 4 plus 20 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. Ooh, that one doesn't work. Okay so far? What about C? Add 10. The square root of 4x plus 3 equals minus 3, thank you, equals 7. Is the radical isolated? So now we 4x minus 3 equals 49. Add 3. 4x equals 52. We all know 52 divided by 4 is 13, right? Do you know that? Yes. Like without your calculator? Because you have 52 cards and 4 suits, so you have 13 in each suit. Do you know that? Okay. Good. I'm glad. Is it right? So 4 times 13 minus 3. 4 times 13 is 52. Minus 3 is 49. Square root of 49 is 7 minus 10 is like 3. It works. Any questions? You have 6 problems on the back and a challenge question. Okay? Do you guys, hold on please. Do you guys have any questions on your project? Have you had any chance to work on it yet? Okay. When is it due? It's due on the 31st. Okay. If you haven't had a chance to get on and copy down or print off the rubric, I sent that link to you yesterday. I do have copies for everyone today if you would like a copy of the rubric. Okay. Next Friday, the 24th, you can turn it in early for extra credit. That's the first day to start turning it in for extra credit, and you'll be able to turn it in every day the week after that for a lower number of points each day. Okay? Ask me questions about it if you need to. Don't wait till the last minute. The screeching halt paper is notes. Yes, very good question. Anybody else have any questions?